Hello and welcome to Fin Business. We have one very interesting conversation happening today. This is in the area of data protection, data sovereignty, and the overall data story in the banking and financial services sector. With me is Mr. Tarun, who heads the IBM Z Linux platform
Thank
globally,
you.
and he is going to converse with us on some of the very important aspects globally with respect to data protection and data sovereignty, and how he sees the global world of transformation in this financial services sector. Tarun, welcome to Banking
Thank you
Focus.
so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks. So, Tarun, you have been touring all over the world, serving organizations across the world. Now, let's take the global scenario with regulations such as GDPR and PSG2, which have come into Europe and in different parts of the world. What is the implication of it on the overall business of the financial services sector? And how is the underlying platform working alongside it?
Yeah, excellent question to begin with, right? As you said, I've been over the last couple of years touring across the globe, and the number one concern customers have, regardless of which geographies they're in, is around how to manage compliance and regulation, especially around data protection and data privacy, as you started the discussion with, right? If you look back even this year, right? I think what happened 2 years ago, these compliance and new mandates starts to come in. For example, GDPR. Customers were looking at it, but they were not that serious in terms of what to do with them. Are we really serious about it? If you watch this year, almost $6 billion worth of fine have taken place between Facebook and Capital One and British Airways of not meeting the data protection and data privacy requirements through these new regulations. And certainly it has perked up customers' interest. How can they meet these requirements? And what compounding the challenge, if you look at the growth of data in the marketplace, just to put some stats out there will be 44 zettabytes of data in the world by 2020. That's 10 to the power of 21. It's more stars that we have in the universe. So how you manage that data, and then how you provide data protection and data privacy without taking the business down. And this requires a new paradigm. This requires a totally, completely different thinking to what you do today, which is pretty much, putting parameters around your infrastructure, around your environment, and hoping nobody can get in. But once somebody gets in, game is off. And then you compound that by cloud environments where data is traveling all over the place. Then you are sending your data to third parties. Then you're sending your data to fintechs. Even if you have the parameters, maybe that third party doesn't have the same mechanisms or the same dollars to provide that kind of secure parameters. So it requires a totally new thinking and totally new innovation, which we are very glad to bring in our latest platform that we are launching in the marketplace for the next 1-3.
Organizations are working on sandboxes and various other things. But how do you see that the organizations can actually manage this risk within their own infrastructure and platform also when they engage with open APIs or with that of the fintechs in the future?
You encrypt the data, you send the data. When the data reach the other location, you decrypt the data because the data has to be processed, right? So the protection only applies when the data is flowing because it is encrypted. But once the data is on the endpoints, then it is at the mercy, it has to be decrypted. Then it's at the mercy of the parameters you have put across. So you might have a different parameter in your infrastructure, the fintech might have a completely different parameter, right? What you want is when you are sending your data, the data protection and data security with the policies that you have applied, and you asking the question, what I think is the right thing to do, flows with the data.
Correct.
And it stays with the data when it is there. And imagine you also have the ability to revoke that access.
Wow.
From your infrastructure.
Interesting.
To say, look, you have access for 2-3 months, you don't need the access anymore, I'm going to revoke the access. That's the kind of capability our customers are looking for without impacting the performance and scalability of their enterprise. Because having this value is good, but if your performance and your scale goes down, then it's not good for the business, right? So that's what the innovation, this data-centric asset protection that we are kind of embarking towards with our new technology.
Kind of compliance coming into picture, ultimately you need to have some underlying system which will empower your customers to make sure that you adopt to these compliance norms quickly.
Yes.
And with nimbleness so that your service is seamless. How do you think that can be achieved?
Fascinating question, right? And I think our answer to that, if you are thinking you're going to achieve that posture by process implementation, then you're behind the eight ball to begin with. Because as you mentioned, these requirements keeps coming fast and fast and fast. So you can establish enough processes in your organization to meet that, because the what you established yesterday will be old tomorrow.
Redundant.
So then the question comes, how you at the base platform level do the right building blocks that you can adapt to these changes much more quicker. And that's where a sound data protection and data privacy policy is paramount. Because imagine a scenario from a compliance perspective, an auditor comes to you and you can demonstrate very quickly, look, all the data is encrypted, right? That's piece one. And then you can say, look, when the data travels, I have my privacy policies travels with the data, and only people who can access the data are the one that adhere to those policies.
We are also in an age of quantum computing where the passwords can be hacked just in a jiffy. Okay, in such situations, what are the kind of innovations that would happen which can actually offer end-to-end protection, and that too throughout the travel of the data?
And you brought the quantum in there, right? That just complicates, as you mentioned, even further, because quantum computing is going to break most of the existing encryption algorithm. And then if you think from our customer perspective, the data they are creating today doesn't just have to last 1 year. It has to last 10, 15, 20 years. So even if the quantum computing will break in 10 years from now, your data is still getting created today that has to be saved and safeguarded in the future. And the basic mechanism of that protection, the data in flight protection, is encryption. You will be surprised, when we introduced pervasive encryption notion 2+ years ago, we went on this research to see how much data is getting encrypted. And we found out that less than 2% of data in the corporate data centers is encrypted.
Wow.
And more than 80% of your mobile phone data is encrypted. Why is that? We went after that question. Why is that? Because everybody took encryption for granted. The problem is doing encryption at scale comes with a lot of cost, a lot of performance, and that's why customers don't do it. So what they basically does is the bare minimum requirements to meet the audit and the compliance.
Fantastic. I think that was a very good encapsulation of the entire concept of security, privacy,
Yeah.
and that goes into creating the right kind of infrastructure of the future. We wish you all the best in creating a secure, scalable, robust, and a trustworthy infrastructure of the future.
Thank you
Wish
so
all
much.
the best.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.